Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Stay Neat. My name is Beth, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Wizenard series, Training Camp. This was conceptualized by Kobe Bryant and written by Wesley King, and this first book follows the 5 starters on the worst basketball team in the youth league, the Badgers. They are from the bottom, which is kind of the lowest section of poor, project-riddled life in the country of Dren. And they go to training camp, find out they have a new coach, and the new coach may or may not be a wizard. His name is Professor Relavi Wizenard. And this book is set up as 5 shorter books. The first 115 pages follows Rain, and then we switch to a different perspective. There are 5 different perspectives in this whole novel. Each of the shorter books is one of the 5 starters talking about the training camp. So I have completed Rain. I thought I'd talk to you about him real quick, and then every time I finish the next section, I will come talk to you about that section. So we've met Professor Wizenard, and Rain is the self-proclaimed leader of the Badgers. He's the highest scorer. He thinks he's the best player on the team. He's very full of himself, but it's because it's what he's always been told. His father left a couple of years ago, and he believes that he's the best player on the team, and he has to push himself, be the best, and make the rest of the team follow, kind of drag them along behind him so that he can progress, so that he can get better, so that he can receive all the accolades and move on and be professional and get his mom and his little brother out of the bottom. And hopefully when he does that, his dad will come back. So during the first 115 pages, we are following Rain as he kind of learns that he's not a leader. He doesn't know what a leader is supposed to do, and he's got to fix himself because it's more important to work as a team, face your fears, and really know what's happening in your life rather than being the narcissistic jerk who isn't going to get anywhere because you're blaming everybody else instead of getting better and becoming who you're supposed to be. I think that's basically all I can say without just major spoilers. Hey guys, I am back to talk about book 2 or section 2, whichever you want to call it, in the Wizenard series, Training Camp. We are following Twig, aka Alfie. He refers to himself by his actual name, which is Alfie, because his identity has not been wrapped up in his team name. In fact, every boy on the team is facing their fears and learning about how to work as a team and grow as a person. And for Alfie, figuring out who he is and working on his self-confidence is a huge part of that. So he has very, very low self-confidence. He has a lot of anxiety. He is from the suburbs, and he gets bullied a lot by the boys on the team because of that. So his journey is more about learning how to make friends and really feel like he's part of the team, because his dad is this overbearing character and he really wants him to play. So Alfie's trying to please him. He's trying to please his coach and the team owner and the people on the team. And he just is really, really hard on himself. So every little thing anybody else says hits him a lot harder, which I personally identify with a lot. And I'm sure a whole lot of people, whatever their age group is, can identify with Alfie for that. We do get all the same events, or mostly the same events. But since Alfie's perspective is so different from Rain's, I did not feel like the repetitiveness was a big issue, and so far, after the first 2 books, I'm still rating this overall as about 4.5 out of 5 stars. Alright guys, another day, another section of the book. I finished Devon's story, which is the 3rd little novella in this big bind-up. I'm calling it a bind-up now. I'm not really sure what to call it. There are 5 book sections in the larger book, so anyway, I've discussed that multiple times. Let's just get on to talking about Devon. He is the newest member of the Badgers. In fact, he is so brand spanking new that we are introduced to him literally a few sentences before we meet Rilabi Wizenard, the new coach. Now, we learn way back in book 1 when they introduce Devon, Rain mentions how big he is. Then Twig's book, he talks about how big Devon is, but he's also very quiet, very reserved. He's this big boy, and everybody thinks he's going to be this beast, and then he's not. He's very quiet. He doesn't talk. He doesn't assert himself on the court. And in this book, we find out why. So very early on in the book, we find out that something happened about 4 years ago, and it shook Devon up so much that when he was able to go back from a suspension from school, he chose not to. And his family felt like he had been really scarred by this. Some adults had called him like beast and a danger. So they allowed him to stay home, and they were just going to let him stay home for the rest of the school year and then go back to school the next year. But it's been 4 years now that he's kind of built his own personal cage. And the only reason he is joining the Badgers is because Freddie, the owner of the Badgers, saw him and his dad playing some street ball and asked him to play. And his parents and his Nana seemed so excited about it that Devon said he would try, but no promises. And so throughout his section of the book, his little novella, we are working through his fear that he's going to hurt somebody. Because it says he is 12, but he's more like a grown man. He's very tall, he's very broad, he works out, and he's always been that way. And there are the voices in his head from when he was a little kid saying that he's a beast and a monster and a danger. So he works through that throughout this book. I'm not going to say anything else other than the fact that I'm starting to feel the redundancy a little bit in all the main plot points being hit over and over again. But there are so many other small nuances that are being tweaked throughout each book. New conversations, new sides to everything that's happening, that it's not taking away from my enjoyment at all. Sorry about the lighting. We got home from the hospital last night, and she's sleeping. She doesn't really like the light. Ooh, she doesn't want me talking much either. But I had finished the last 2 sections in the Wizenard training camp while at the hospital, and I filmed a little segment about them there, and now I can't find it. So I wanted to just kind of wrap up and tell you that the last 2 sections are about Paimio and Lab. Paimio and Lab are brothers. Lab is 3 years younger than Paimio, and they both lost their mother a couple of years prior to this book. So the fears that they are facing and the things that they are dealing with throughout the magical portions of their books have a lot to do with the grieving process. And I thought that these 2 sections were really, really well done. It discusses the grieving process and how people grieve differently and, take on responsibilities that they should have never had to take on. And, how one person can grieve and think nobody else is grieving and be angry, even though everybody around them is grieving because of the way things are being handled. I thought it was just really well done. Again, there's a lot of repeat because we're following the same 2 weeks. So the same 5 big events, a lot of the same conversations, but it doesn't feel too terribly repetitive or redundant because you're getting new people's sides of the story and you're finding out, in one book, it may have said Lab looked glazed over and we couldn't get his attention. Well, then in Lab's story, you find out where he was in his mind, why that was happening. So I really thought that that was very well done. I'm looking forward to reading book 2 whenever it comes out. I couldn't find much information on it, so I can't tell you anything about that. But I am looking forward to that. I've given the book a 4-star overall, and I hope that you will go read it. If you have any questions or want to chat about it, come down in the comment section below, and we'll strike up a conversation. Talk to you guys again soon. Have a great week.